Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India, India's voice to the world. This is News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi lays the foundation stone and unveils multiple projects in eastern Indian states of Jharkhand and West Bengal to visit Bihar tomorrow. India expresses shock at the loss of lives in northern Gaza, reiterates the call for safe and timely delivery of humanitarian aid and assistance. Talks at the 13th WTO Ministerial in Abu Dhabi deadlocked with no resolution in sight. Deadline to reach agreement delayed once again. Iranians vote for new parliament. The voters to elect members of the country's 290-seat legislature amid mounting economic hardship and restrictions on political and social freedoms. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Friday laid the foundation stone and unveiled multiple projects in the Indian state of Jharkhand as well as in West Bengal. The Prime Minister laid the foundation stone and unveiled development projects worth 35,700 crore rupees. That's Indian rupees, or about $4.46 billion in Jharkhand. While in West Bengal, the Prime Minister dedicated to the nation and laid the foundation stone of development projects worth 7,200 crore Indian rupees, or about $900 million in Arambagh. So these projects relate to various sectors. They include rail, ports, coal, oil, pipelines, LPG supply, as well as wastewater treatment. Here's our report.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited the eastern state of West Bengal and Jharkhand on Friday. In Jharkhand, Prime Minister laid the foundation stone and dedicated to the nation multiple development projects worth 35,700 crore Indian rupees or $4.46 billion in Sindri, Dhanbad. Some of these projects which Prime Minister dedicated to the nation in Jharkhand included important power projects including Unit 1 660 megawatt of Northern Karanpur Super Thermal Power Project, Chhatra and Hindustan Urvarak and Rasayan Limited Sindri Fertilizer Plant. Prime Minister dedicated and laid the foundation stone for several rail projects worth more than 17,600 crores in Jharkhand. Prime Minister also inspected the Hindustan Urvarak and Rasayan Limited model and took a walkthrough of the Sindri plant control room. Prime Minister recalled his resolution to start the Sindri fertilizer plant. He said the start of this plant will generate employment opportunities for local youth.
मैं 2018 में इस फर्टिलाइजर प्लांट का शिलान्यास करने आया था। आज सिर्फ सिंदरी कारखाने की ही शुरुआत नहीं हुई है, बल्कि मेरे देश के, मेरे झारखंड के नौजवानों के लिए रोजगार के हजारों नए अवसरों की शुरुआत हुई है। इस खाद कारखाने के लोकार्पण के साथ ही आज भारत ने आत्मनिर्भरता की ओर भी एक बड़ा कदम उठाया है।
In West Bengal, Prime Minister dedicated to the nation and laid the foundation stone for multiple development projects worth 7,200 crores or $900 million in Arambagh, Hubli. Some of the projects which were inaugurated included Indian Oil's 518-kilometer Haldia-Baruni crude oil pipeline, Indian Oil's LPG bottling plant with a capacity of 120 TPA at Vidyasagar Industrial Park in Kharagpur. Third, rail-mounted quake crane of Haldia Dock Complex with a lifting capacity of 40 tons. Rail projects worth about 2,680 crores or 335 million US dollars. 3 projects related to wastewater treatment and sewerage in West Bengal. The PM reiterated the priorities of empowerment of youth, women, farmers and the poor. Prime Minister also mentioned government's effort which helped to lift almost 250 million people out of poverty.
बीते 10 वर्षों में देश के 25 करोड़ लोग गरीबी से बाहर निकले हैं। ये दिखाता है कि हमारी सरकार की दिशा सही है, नीतियां सही है, निर्णय सही है और उसका मूल कारण नीयत सही है।
On Saturday, Prime Minister will visit Krishnanagar Nadia district in West Bengal. Later in the afternoon, Prime Minister will also visit Aurangabad and Begusarai in the Indian state of Bihar to unveil multiple projects there. Bureau Report, TD India.
Well, talks at the WTO's 13th Ministerial in Abu Dhabi went into an extended 5th day. The closing session was delayed several times in the hope that the intensive and difficult negotiations were reaching a positive conclusion. 4 issues remain unresolved: agriculture, fisheries, e-commerce and dispute resolution. India is looking for a just and fair resolution to these issues. New Zealand's Trade Minister Todd McClay, who also serves as the Vice Chair of the conference, voiced support for India's stance on public stockholding. Let's look at this report. An organization which has grown in strength at the multilateral level, but which is still finding it exceedingly difficult to come to an agreement on key issues of global trade. The WTO has 164 members and was supposed to reach a final agreement by consensus after 4 days of intergovernmental talks on the 29th of February in Abu Dhabi. But that deadline was extended thrice, first to 10 a.m. GMT, then to 1300 GMT, and again till 1600 GMT on the 1st of March. This year's 13th Ministerial Conference was hoping to reach deals on ending fishing subsidies and extending a moratorium on digital trade tariffs. India and South Africa led countries of the Global South in opposing these. An UNCTAD report suggests that developing countries are losing $10 billion or thereabouts of tax revenues due to a moratorium on digital trade tariffs. It was agreed to in 1998 and has continued since then.
India stands on strong principles of fair play, justice, and wants to ensure that all decisions taken at the WTO are keeping in mind the best interests of India's farmers, India's fisher folk.
India has strongly opposed ending subsidies in sectors like agriculture and fisheries. The subsidies are necessary for countries in the Global South to compete with the scale of production of the developed countries. However, the more affluent countries and blocs like the EU, Japan and China oppose ending subsidies for the selfish reason that they can distort trade. India is worried that the dispute resolution mechanism in the WTO remains paralyzed.
We believe that the first and foremost issue that WTO MC13 should address is generating trust. Trust that the WTO can deliver, and if somebody breaks the rules of the WTO, they can be taken to task through the dispute resolution mechanism.
The WTO Dispute Resolution Tribunal has been crippled by the US opposing the appointments of judges. Besides this, negotiations at the WTO are always difficult because they involve complex trade-offs that could affect interlinked sectors. Hence, it takes time. Currently, the outstanding issues are agriculture, e-commerce, fisheries, and dispute resolution. India's role has been that of a consensus builder around issues of justice and fair play. that efforts have been made to reach a deal is itself considered progress, and these efforts will continue until the next ministerial in 2026. Bureau Report, DD India. And Vinod Kumar joins us now from Abu Dhabi. He is Prasar Bharati special correspondent. Vinod, what's the latest update on the extended fifth day?
See, Mark, as you, Marklin, you rightly put out, the conference deadline has been delayed multiple times. It's the latest time for the closing ceremony is 10 p.m. today at UAE time. As we speak right now, India has taken several objections in 3 counts on agriculture, fisheries, e-commerce. And in IFT, there was the decision that has been taken by India yesterday still stands, and we are setting our foot very firm. On agriculture, let me give you a background. India is a country where we need food security and livelihood is as our paramount importance. You cannot sustain your livelihood and your food security through trade only. We have experiences from the 1960s and the 1970s where our food security was trampled. We are forced to import stuff from countries like New Zealand and US. That too, we got substandard food from those countries during that time. After the Green Revolution, India is standing on its feet for as far as food security is concerned. Now, the WTO rules mandate that if you're not an LTC country, if you're a developing country, you have to remove the tariffs and other taxes which hinders trade. But the principle of WTO, which states, is that the principle of reciprocity. So when you speak about reciprocity should also mean that reciprocity in the size of your economics. In India, we have smaller land size holdings. We have holdings of 1 acre, 2 acre, maybe a hectare. But in the countries like China and US, they do agriculture on a commercial basis. For them, producing food is motivated by profit. They want to sell the food in the international market and have market access to developing countries. Like in India, is a huge market.
Right.
But when it comes to food security, you cannot depend upon only on trade. This is the main condition that India has raised in WTO. As far as India is concerned, India is the largest country in the world, and you cannot feed 140 crore people only with trade. Second thing is fisheries. China has got a fleet size of 650 and India has got none. So you cannot compare the disproportionate size of these developed countries who have historically exploited the fisheries in the deep oceans, and you cannot equate them with Indian economy. Our fishermen are small-scale fishermen who knows how to have sustainable fishing, who lived with nature for centuries, who catches fish for their sustainability and for their livelihood, not for making huge profits. This is the second point that India has been raising. The third thing is on e-commerce. E-commerce, yes, as you rightly mentioned, Marklin, in 1998, we did not have a clear definition of what e-commerce was. CD was a medium then. You had digital products, which is physical in nature. Now, at 2024, we have a clear definition on what makes digital trade, what is e-commerce sector, and what are the implications. India alone is losing around $500 million since we are not, we have extended this moratorium multiple times. This moratorium is going to expire on March 31st this year. So if we extend again on his revenue loss, the second point is more important. We will not have a policy space for implementation. For example, we are pioneers in UPI. We are pioneers in other digital products. We have a digital product infrastructure policy of the government of India. So if you leave everything to the multilateral forum like WTO, if there is completely free trade in this digital space, we will lose our sovereign right to make policies in this space. Quantum computing, artificial intelligence, large language models, everything comes in this domain. So we have to keep our sovereign stake intact with us. That's the third point that India has taken. And discussion, as we speak right now, discussions are continuing, and we can expect that a consensus can be made. But we have to be a little pessimistic also here. The WTO DG started her speech with a tone that multilateralism is under threat. I think what we have seen here is that the entire 13th Ministerial Conference had walked that talk. Let's see what unwinds in the next couple of hours.
Absolutely. Vinod, also you did mention about the Investment Facilitation Development Initiative. So the IFD, what is the current status of that?
See, India along with the developing countries like Brazil and South Africa has raised objections on IFT on 3 counts. The investment facilitation agreement has to be marked to Annex 4 of the Marrakesh agreement. That was the demand of the countries led by China. Their basic idea was, in the name of IFD, you enter this particular agreement into the multilateral fora like WTO and enhance their Belt and Road Initiative and give debts to developing countries and make sure that you have a political influence in the space. India objected it on 3 counts. The first count is that according to the Marrakesh Agreement, Article 10, Clause 9, IFT do not stand the test of being trade. It is not trade. It is investment. There are many other multilateral and plurilateral bodies across the world which deals with investment. Why it has to be taken into the fora of WTO? It is legally, it is not tenable. Second thing, the request of addition. This is where the very logic of WTO fails. See, to take a plurilateral agreement into a multilateral fora like WTO, WTO has given special clauses. It is not there in the general clause. It has got special clauses, and in that special clause, it is uncertain if the parties to the IFT can request its addition to Annex 4 if they have not ratified this in their domestic markets and domestic procedures has been instituted in their home countries. This has not been done. Without this being not done, you cannot take this into the WTO forum. Third is that IFT does not have a multilateral mandate. Negotiations on the IFT began in the first place without any multilateral mandate and only with a plurilateral mandate of these 123 countries. These are the 3 points that India has raised on the legal front. But really, we know that what are the intentions of countries like China in the name of IFT, what they want to do.
We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Vinod Kumar, for joining us from Abu Dhabi with the latest on the WTO. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. Israel says that Gaza citizens are looting the aid trucks. Iranians cast their votes for a new parliament. And 4 people injured after a blast at an eatery in Bengaluru's Whitefield area.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lin. At the US presidential candidates, as the candidates, in fact, gear up for the elections this year, the contenders are leaving no stone unturned to win over voters. The Republican candidate Nikki Haley will be holding a campaign event in Washington, D.C. on Friday as the U.S. capital city. It holds the presidential primary. Now, Haley continues to travel the country in the hope of inspiring more people to cast their ballots in her favor. Haley has lost every nominating contest so far to her rival, the former U.S. President Donald Trump. But she still believes she is in this race till Trump has the requisite delegate count to claim the party's nomination. Besides that, Trump has also many legal battles to contend with. A planned mission to the International Space Station has been delayed due to bad weather. SpaceX has delayed its first NASA astronaut launch of 2024, once again citing unfavorable weather conditions in the U.S. state of Florida. The officials say that the launch will now be attempted at 9:46 a.m. Indian Standard Time on Sunday. DD India's Sally Peterson reports.
A SpaceX rocket is due to launch 4 astronauts to the International Space Station this weekend. Liftoff is planned to take place at Launch Complex 39A at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in the U.S. state of Florida. The people on board are NASA astronauts Matthew Dominic, Michael Barrett, Jeanette Epps, and Russian cosmonaut Alexander Grabenkin. SpaceX originally designed its Dragon crew capsule to carry up to 7 astronauts, but so far the company has only flown a maximum of 4 people at a time. Now they're due to embark on a 6-month mission to the ISS and will relieve their colleagues from the Crew 7 mission. But the latest mission has been delayed several times. It was due to head off in February, but got pushed back. And now the crew's takeoff has been postponed again because of weather concerns. NASA wrote in an update that unfavourable weather conditions were expected in offshore areas along the flight track of the Dragon spacecraft. The liftoff will be broadcast live online. Sally Patterson in New York, reporting for DD India.
Well, amid the rising need for humanitarian aid, India has reiterated its support for the Palestinian people and has reaffirmed at the United Nations that it will continue to supply relief and assistance to the needy in the conflict-struck zone. Meanwhile, Israel has said that the citizens in Gaza were looting the aid trucks. And as a result of pushing, trampling and being run over by these trucks, dozens of Gazans were killed and injured.
As Israel-Gaza conflict continues, India has reiterated its support for Palestinian people and affirmed continuation of relief supply and assistance. At the 55th session of the UN Human Rights Council, India highlighted that two-state solution is necessary to end the conflict.
The situation in Palestine continues to be of grave concern, with large-scale loss of civilian lives, especially women and children, and an alarming humanitarian crisis. This is clearly unacceptable, and we strongly condemn the death of all civilians. Mr. President, we must be clear that terrorism and hostage-taking are unacceptable and deserve our unequivocal condemnation. India has a zero-tolerance approach to terrorism. The return of hostages is imperative. We must also be clear about the universal obligation to observe international humanitarian law. Further, there is an immediate need for a sustainable humanitarian corridor to provide relief. The conflict must not spread within or beyond the region. And let me emphasize that a two-state solution is necessary more than ever before. These are not choices, these are all musts, and unless we are able to address all of them, we are not going to really solve the problem. India, on its part, will continue to support the Palestinian people through our bilateral development partnership, and we will also continue to send humanitarian assistance to the people of Palestine.
Meanwhile, Israel rejected allegations that its military killed more than 100 people in Gaza. It asserted that as soon as 8 carrying trucks entered the northern Gaza, residents surrounded the vehicles and looted the supplies being delivered. The situation went out of hand, resulting to pushing and stampede, and many even got run over by trucks, leading to death of dozens of Gazans.
This humanitarian aid came from Egypt, went through a security screening at the Kerem Shalom humanitarian crossing in Israel, and then entered Gaza for distribution by private contractors. As these vital humanitarian supplies were making their way towards Gazans in need, thousands of Gazans dispensed upon the trucks. Some began violently pushing and even trampling other Gazans to death, looting the humanitarian supplies. The unfortunate incident resulted in dozens of Gazans killed and injured.
On the international side, US is seeking information on what took place in northern Gaza, where more than 100 people were killed as they waited for an aid delivery.
We are urgently seeking additional information on exactly what took place. We have been in touch with the Israeli government since early this morning and understand that an investigation is underway. We will be monitoring that investigation closely and pressing for answers.
Meanwhile, in a statement, White House said US President Joe Biden held a phone call with Amir al-Thani of Qatar and Egypt President al-Sisi about the ongoing Israel-Gaza conflict. The leaders emphasized on efforts to secure the release of hostages held by Hamas and the urgency to expedite and increase the flow of humanitarian assistance.
Well, India has expressed shock at the loss of lives in northern Gaza on Thursday. The Ministry of External Affairs said, and I quote, "We are deeply shocked at the loss of lives in northern Gaza yesterday during delivery of humanitarian assistance. Such loss of civilian lives and the larger humanitarian situation in Gaza continues to be a cause of extreme concern. We reiterate our call for safe and timely delivery of humanitarian aid and assistance." Ukrainian troops have repelled Russian forces from Orlivka in eastern Avdiivka, but the situation remains challenging. Russia claimed control of the new position in Robotyne, Zaporizhia, where Ukraine has reported shooting down a Russian fighter jet.
Fighting intensifies in eastern part of Avdiivka as Ukrainian troops have claimed to have pushed back Russian forces from the village of Orlivka, which is located in the western part of Avdiivka. But the situation on the eastern front remains difficult for Ukrainian forces. Last week, Russian troops captured the eastern Ukrainian city of Avdiivka and are pressing on other areas along the front line. Russia has again claimed to have captured a new position in the town of Robotyne in Zaporizhia, while the Ukrainian side stated on the same day that its military forces had shot down a Russian fighter jet. Amid reports of short supplies of arms from Western countries, Ukraine has significantly increased its use of domestic-made weapons and military equipment. Meanwhile, Germany has not accepted British advice to supply long-range missiles to Kiev, as Chancellor Olaf Scholz asserted that Berlin is not willing to involve German soldiers in the ongoing conflict.
A weapon which is not even the most powerful one, a HIMARS rocket launcher, achieves a lot more than a Taurus, but which has a 500-kilometer range and which, if used wrongly, can reach a concrete target somewhere in Moscow, is a weapon where the question, what are we going to do with it and how should it be used, cannot be decided just like that with self-encouraging slogans.
Germany has been the second biggest donor of military aid to Ukraine in its confrontation with Russia. Bureau Report, DD India.
Iranians voted in a new parliamentary election on Friday, viewed as a crucial test for the clerical establishment's legitimacy amid economic challenges and political constraints. The Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, stressed that the religious obligation of voting, he stressed on it, and he said that it was the first, and he, in fact, was the first to vote. Let's look at this report.
Iranians cast their votes on Friday for a new parliament, a crucial moment viewed as a test of the clerical establishment's standing amidst mounting discontent over economic hardships and limitations on political and social freedoms. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, emphasizing the religious obligation of voting, was the first to participate in election in Iran. This electoral event represents the initial formal gauge of public sentiment following the 2022-23 anti-government protests.
Both our friends and people who are interested in the Iranian nation, as well as their ill-wishers from all sides, the observer of the issue of our country and the observer of our dear nation, pay attention to this. Make your friends happy and disappoint the ill-wishers.
Approximately 15,000 candidates are competing for seats in 290-member parliament, officially named the Islamic Consultative Assembly. Parliamentary terms last for 4 years, with 5 seats designated for Iranians' religious minority groups. According to the law, the parliament holds authority over the executive branch, participates in treaty ratifications, and addresses various other matters. Bureau Report, DD India.
Let's take a look at other news making the news around the world. Buses, trams and underground trains stood idle across most of Germany at the culmination of the public transport strikes triggered by disputes over working hours. The walkouts, organized by the Verdi Union, have hit 14 of the country's 16 states, including Berlin. The movies Golda, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Poor Things and Society of the Snow have been nominated in the makeup and hairstyling category at the 96th Academy Awards, which will be held on March 10. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. We'll find out whether the WTO has moved forward or not in its deadlocked talks. Jefferies Equity Research Outlook praises the reforms in India over the last 10 years. Tesla CEO Elon Musk sues ChatGPT maker OpenAI for abandoning its mission. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Here's a recap of our main stories. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi lays the foundation stone and unveils multiple projects in eastern Indian states of Jharkhand and West Bengal. He's going to visit Bihar tomorrow. Talks of the WTO's 13th ministerial in Abu Dhabi are deadlocked with no resolution in sight. The deadline to reach the agreement is delayed once again. Iranians vote for a new parliament. The voters to elect the members of the country's 290-seat legislature amid mounting economic hardship and restrictions on political and social freedoms. And now returning to our story on the WTO, we have with us Dr. Jayant Dasgupta, who's a former Indian ambassador to the WTO. Thank you very much, Dr. Dasgupta. Now, is there consensus building up on public stockholding? We see that New Zealand is also supporting India's stand.
Well, it is still quite uncertain as to whether we will get something very positive on public stockholding in the ministerial declaration. But last-minute efforts are on, and the ministerial conference final session has been now pushed back, and it is going to be held at 10 o'clock this evening, Abu Dhabi time, so which is about 11:30 Indian time. So we still have a few hours left. Parleys are going on, but apart from some language which is likely to, at the most optimistic, there could be some language which would be providing comfort to India and the other more than 80 countries which have supported this draft declaration on public stockholding, that by MC14, that is the next ministerial conference in 2 years' time, there would be a solution which the others, the total membership will work out. So that is the best that we are hoping for, but we are keeping our fingers crossed.
Indeed. Now that, digital economy is so widespread, why is there still resistance to end this moratorium on digital tariffs?
Well, there are several issues. The first issue is that it has been going on since 1998, which is about 25 years plus. The second issue is that electronic commerce has also undergone many changes, and the work program, which is under the aegis of the WTO, that has been given the go-by, and a parallel joint statement initiative is being pushed forward, and through that, the proponents, which are more than 80-90 countries, they want to have a kind of a plurilateral agreement, which will, they will try to again get into the WTO as an Annex 4 plurilateral agreement. Now, we already have seen the fate of the Investment Facilitation for Development initiative, which was also started at about the same time as a joint statement initiative. India, South Africa, and many other countries did not allow this to go forward because of various reasons. One of them being that it did not have a ministerial mandate to start with to initiate the negotiations. So India wants the Electronic Commerce Working Party again to be revitalized, which has been going on since 1998, but the proponents of the Joint Statement Initiative, they have really ignored it, and it has been not been used. So India wants to revive it, and this is actually India's stand is to revive multilateralism and not allow plurilateralism to be the main process of negotiating agreements in the WTO.
Dr. Dasgupta, how have China, Japan, the EU distorted the fishing trade? Now, is there some way, of stopping subsidies for them and continuing them for the smaller fisheries?
The problem there is slightly complicated because the developed countries and China and Taiwan and Korea, they have massively subsidized their fishing fleets. And these fishing fleets not only fish in their own respective exclusive economic zones of 200 nautical miles, they also fish in the exclusive economic zones of several countries which do not have the capacity to fish themselves. But the more dangerous part is that they have provided so much of capacity through subsidies to go and fish in the distant seas, which is beyond the exclusive economic zone of any country. Now, that is something which has not been touched by the current fisheries subsidies text. That distant water fishing, you can possibly keep on subsidizing your industrial fleets. Now, that is what India is objecting, and South Africa and many other countries are objecting to, because we are saying that a lot of fishing takes place and overfishing takes place in the distant seas. And in that case, there is no monitoring, nothing. And if we allow subsidization to continue at the same pace as it is being done now, it will lead to very dangerous depletion of stock. So what we have suggested is that for the next 25 years, the developed countries and whosoever was subsidizing industrial fleet building for distant water fishing, that should stop.
Okay. Dr. Dasgupta, is there any hope of the US complying with, dispute resolution mechanism? They've been objecting to judges on the tribunal. What do you think?
The US has been doing it since almost since 2016. And I don't see any change in the US attitude. At best, they have said that maybe they will try to find a solution by 2024, which is end 2024. But that is also by way of, I think, placating the other side. Unless there is earnestness, and mind you, there is going to be an election in the US and the new president will get elected in November this year, inaugurated in January next year. So a lot of things will change with the coming of the new president, whether it is, if it is President Biden who comes in for a second term, then of course things may continue on an even keel. But even President Biden has not really done anything to restore the appellate body of the WTO to its previous status. So we can't really hope for much on that score unless there is a change of heart.
Dr. Dasgupta, also can the WTO just, concentrate on trade, or is everything too interlinked today? I mean, investment, climate change, and all these other issues.
If there are separate fora, for instance, if for climate change, there is a separate fora. So it is better not to mix up everything and bring it into the fold of the WTO. One of the reasons why many countries want to bring in issues in the WTO is because it used to have a very effective two-tier dispute resolution system and it had teeth, so to say. But since the appellate body has become dysfunctional, that teeth is not being used or not possible to be used. So to that extent, I think the attraction of the WTO has got reduced. But having said that, I think on investment, there is also this broader issue that it is not part of trade relations for which the WTO was constituted and which is mentioned in the Marrakesh Agreement, which sets up the WTO. So that is something which the members can decide. They can, if they want to, they can change even the Marrakesh Agreement by following the due process which has been laid down. But before that, I think to confuse all these issues, and then you can also, there are countries which want labor standards, which want gender, which want MSMEs to be also brought into the WTO for discussions and for possible agreements. Now that is going to take away the main thrust of the WTO to provide market access, to provide an opportunity for all countries, all its members, but specifically also for the poorest amongst the countries to get their due share of global trade and benefit from that.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Dr. Jayant Dasgupta, former Indian ambassador to the WTO, for clearing many of our doubts and helping us understand the difficulties in WTO negotiations. Moving on then. A testament to the religious diversity in the United Arab Emirates, the BAPS Hindu temple opened its doors to the public on Friday. Devotees in large numbers offered prayers at the temple. They were very much excited to have a darshan in the largest temple in the Gulf region.
The auspicious sound of bells and long queues of devotees. It's not the scene of any Hindu temple in India, but that of BAPS Hindu Mandir in Abu Dhabi. The Middle East's first traditional stone temple opened its doors to public on Friday, marking a significant milestone in the region's cultural landscape.
It's perhaps the biggest Hindu temple in this part of the world. Prime Minister himself inaugurated the temple. And talking about the footfall, I can tell you one thing, that during those days when the run up to the inauguration of the temple, it was very difficult to get seats on airlines from India to the UAE. So much is the kind of interest among people, and so many people were here to participate not only in the inaugural ceremony but days around the inaugural ceremony. There's a huge rush, and I'm so happy to also share with you that this is a temple which actually symbolizes interfaith harmony. The people who come to see the temple are people from several faiths.
The temple, which was inaugurated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi on 14th February, is a testament to the religious diversity in the United Arab Emirates. The temple will be open to the public daily from 9 am to 8 pm, except on Mondays when it will be closed for maintenance. Although there is no entry fee, devotees will have to register on the official website or through the Festival of Harmony app before their visit. As the largest Hindu mandir in the Gulf region opens its doors to the public, it serves not only as a place of worship but also as a symbol of unity, diversity and mutual respect. Through its teachings of love, peace and harmony, the mandir promises to be a guiding light for humanity in the years to come.
Bureau Report, DD India.
But still to come here on DD India News Hour. The Hero Indian Open Golf Tournament is going to return to Gurugram on the outskirts of Delhi. Australia gave the hosts New Zealand a tough time on day 2 of the Wellington Test. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. 4 people were seriously injured in an explosion at a popular restaurant in Bengaluru in the South Indian state of Karnataka. The Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah said that an improvised explosive device caused the blast. A team from the National Investigation Agency visited the spot and collected forensic material. Police have identified the 28-year-old culprit who left an unidentified bag and left the cafe. Eyewitnesses say that the blast occurred as someone left an unidentified bag near the hand wash area. The entire area was engulfed in smoke. People living nearby in the cafe also were taken aback by the incident.
Around after 1 o'clock, we heard a very big sound, and we immediately rushed to here, and we found that it was a very big smoke, and people were telling that it was a very big blast. And I was standing right here, and I was kind of eyewitness at that time. And we already found that already 4 people got injured very severely, and one of the Rameshwaram cave staff got very great injuries, and he was completely unconscious. And we have immediately taken him to the nearest Brookfield hospital.
The Rameshwaram Cafe, where this blast happened, is a popular food joint in the South Indian food industry there. And it's a favorite hangout also for the IT crowd from the Tech Park in Bengaluru. Our correspondent Aisha Khanam gathered some details from the scene of the crime.
Eyewitnesses say that they saw a man carrying a mysterious bag and entering this cafe, after which they saw smoke all around this cafe. And there was a mystery about what actually happened, although initial reports said that it could be a cylinder blast. And the NIA team has found some clues of a serious blast, which could have been low-intensity blast, and this could have been planted here to create fear among the people. So who was the target? Was it the restaurant, or was it the people who were coming here, or was this just the handiwork of few who want to create fear in Bangalore and who want to create a sense of terror in Bangalore? So the question that remains to be answered is, the forensic experts are analyzing all the elements, all the material that has been taken from this place, and all the forensic experts will now compile a report about as to what kind of composite materials were there when this blast happened. This will be a big investigation. Right now, the Karnataka Minister has said that the situation is in control and the police is taking care of the investigation. But the NIA team reaching the spot means big, because this is a national investigative agency which will look into the terror aspects, if any, into this blast. With cameraman Muni Krishna, Aisha Khanam, DD India, Bangalore.
A massive fire at a 7-story building in Bangladesh's capital Dhaka has killed at least 46 people and left dozens injured. According to the fire service officials, the fire originated in a restaurant and it quickly spread to other floors. Bangladesh's Health Minister Samantha Lal Sen told reporters that visiting the Dhaka Medical College Hospital, he confirmed that the injured were admitted with severe burns and in a critical condition, and a 5-member committee has been formed to investigate this incident. The Tesla CEO Elon Musk has sued the ChatGPT maker OpenAI and its CEO Sam Altman for abandoning the firm's founding mission. Musk alleged that Sam Altman has breached the foundational mission by putting the pursuit of profit ahead of the benefit to humanity. The lawsuit comes amid an ongoing fight between the former business partners that has simmered for years. India is on track to become a $10 trillion economy in the coming years and also to grab the third largest slot soon. As India is targeting to become the third largest economy in the next 2 to 3 years, the World Economic Forum President Jorge Brende said that India is on track to become a $10 trillion economy in the coming years. India's major priority so far has been to secure economic growth, eradicate poverty, and to ensure that the world is flourishing when it comes to prosperity. Strong reform measures initiated by India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi's led government in the last 10 years. These reforms have laid the foundation for a solid economic performance in the coming decades. Jefferies Equity Research Outlook has said that India would become the third largest economy by 2027 and is expected to achieve a market capitalization of $10 trillion by 2030. The report added that a strong earnings growth profile, track record of generating peer-beating returns, rising India's market weight, as well as deep markets should attract incremental foreign flows. India has emerged as a key player in the dynamic landscape of intellectual property as well globally, showcasing a remarkable growth trajectory. The growth is equally contributing. It's contributed by the startup ecosystem as well as the prolific base of small and medium enterprises and individual investors. This is reflected in India's growth in the Global Innovation Index, which has moved from the 83rd position, India, to the 40th position, and India's global patent position as well. The government is investing in research to raise the productivity of crops and livestock even in the warmer climate, and it's expanding its plans for clean energy as well. India's Minister of State for Information and Broadcasting L. Murugan has said that the centre has allocated 25 billion rupees for strengthening the broadcasting infrastructure, especially along the borders. He reviewed the functioning of the All India Radio, Akashvani that is, and Doordarshan in the southern zone at a meeting in Chennai on Friday. In his inaugural address, he said that the initiative is being undertaken under the Broadcasting Infrastructure Development Fund under the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. He said that it's imperative for reaching out to the people across the length and breadth of the country with the right content, including news and entertainment, keeping in mind the interests of the country and also reflecting the unity, diversity and development of the country. The Prime Minister, this Minister, the Minister of State for Information and Broadcasting, asked people at each station to prepare a roadmap for the efficient coverage of the forthcoming Lok Sabha elections. India's economy has another good bit of news. This is after the recent projection of India's GDP growth rate at 8.4% for the third quarter of 2023-2024. India's benchmark stock indices, they continue to soar. The Bombay Stock Exchange, the Sensex, reached 1,200 points. It continued to rise, in fact, hitting a current new record high, which is 73,819 points. The Sensex had closed at 73,750. And the Nifty 50 had touched 23,000, almost 23,000. It's 22,353 points actually. Indian Coast Guard, the ships Samarth and Abhinav departed from the Sri Lankan city of Galle for Colombo. The ships had reached Galle on the 27th of February. At Galle, the ships had undertaken multifarious engagements with the Sri Lankan Coast Guard, including joint training in boarding ops, pollution response, firefighting, damage control, enhancing people-to-people connect, as well as the crew undertook beach cleaning, a yoga session as well, and also organized a visit on board for the families of the Sri Lankan Navy, Coast Guard and Port Authority. Some other news making the news. Let's move on. The Enforcement Directorate of India has made an arrest in connection with its money laundering investigation linked to the alleged irregularities in the Jal Jeevan mission in the Indian state of Rajasthan. India's Minister of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Dharmendra Pradhan, launched the Sambalpur chapter of the 100 Cube Odisha initiative led by the IIM Sambalpur. The initiative aims to foster a new culture of ideas and innovation and transform Odisha into a powerhouse of entrepreneurship. The Election Commission of India has warned political parties to uphold decorum during campaigning for the upcoming general elections. The advisory issued by the ECI said that stern action will be taken against any direct or indirect violations of the Model Code of Conduct. India's Defence Ministry has signed 5 major capital acquisition contracts worth over $4.7 billion to further boost the Make in India initiative. The contracts were exchanged in the presence of the Defence Minister of India, also called the Raksha Mantri, Rajnath Singh, and the Defence Secretary Giridhar Aramane in New Delhi on Friday. Let's get you the sports news now. The Hero Indian Open, the country's national open and flagship golf tournament, is in fact returning to usher a new era in Indian golf with an enhanced prize purse as well and several first-time incentives. The 2024 edition of the Hero Indian Open will be held between the 28th and 31st of March at Gurugram on the outskirts of Delhi. And this tournament now is in its 57th edition. It will carry a record prize purse of $2.25 million and will be part of the Asian Swing, bringing added benefits to the swing champion. And leading the field will be the former champion Anirban Lahiri, who won the 2015 edition. Shiv Kapoor, the 3-time DP World Tour winner, Nicolas Colsartes of Belgium, and new exciting talent Kazumi Kobari of New Zealand.
So the Hero Indian Open 2024 is going to be played at the DLF Golf and Country Club in Gurugram from March 28th to 31st. The prize purse is 2.25 million US. If you remember, when Hero MotoCorp came on board as the title sponsor back in 2005, the prize purse was $300,000. So if you really look at it, over the past 20 years, the prize purse has grown 7.5 times. Over the past 20 years, Hero Indian Open, which is the national open, has grown by leaps and bounds. Our association with the DP World Tour is now 10 years old, which is the second biggest tour in the world.
We are into the Indian Open week very, very soon. Very excited to play this event. It's happening on DLF Golf and Country Club, and it's sponsored by Hero. So I think it's a great combination, and it's our national open happening in DLF, which is a golf course of a certain stature. You have to play well. You have to be very, very consistent with your shots, and I'm excited. Let's see how it goes.
Australia dismissed New Zealand for 179 to take control of the first test on the second day after Cameron Green had scored a brilliant 174 not out in a defiant final wicket partnership to drive the visitors to 383 all out. The Black Caps lost wickets in clumps as they reeled in the face of Australia's attack, with Glenn Phillips's aggressive 71 serving only as a chance to save the home side from deep embarrassment in front of a sellout crowd at Wellington's Basin Reserve. Now, Australia chose not to enforce the follow-on, but the wickets kept falling, with skipper Tim Southee dismissing Steve Smith and Marnus Labuschagne cheaply as the shadows across the ground lengthened. So the night watchman Nathan Lyon was dropped by Southee as well in the slips of the last ball of the day, and will resume on 6 not out alongside Usman Khawaja, who is unbeaten on 5. Australia were 13 for 2 wickets, but they're leading by 217 runs. That's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Mark Lynn. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.